Welcome, everybody, to the Cincinnati Bengals Weekly Show on the Grueling Crew Sports Network. The Cincinnati Bengals Weekly Show is brought to you by Dr. Randall Fick in Springdale, Ohio, chiropractic orthopedic doctor. Highly recommend Dr. Fick. I'm your host, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I would like to welcome in my co-host, former Cincinnati Bengal, Joe Kelly.
Hey, what's going on, Mike? Man, it's Steeler week. Despite the records, despite the way the season has been going for us, bingo hopefuls. At the end of the day, this is still Steeler week, and this is a week where you throw the records out, and it's a rival, and it's the most hated rival, and you have them at home, Mike. You have them again, prime time, Monday night. If we just go along with the history of late, well, we're going to be expecting Andy Dalton to flop, the Bengals to flop, the Bengals to find a way to lose this game if we go according to history, Mike. But yeah, it's for some reason, Mike. I don't know. I woke up pretty hopeful. I don't know if I'm dreaming, if I'm trying to fool myself. But I look at it like this, Mike. It's Monday night, and despite how bad the offensive line play has been, despite our record, despite us losing games where we should have won, and then obviously just playing terrible in spurts, they're still mathematically in this. They're in the thick of this wild card race, and you're at home. I think these guys should be so focused, so pumped, crazy, insane, pumped for this game. Monday night, Pittsburgh. You beat Pittsburgh. You're right back in this thing. And I'm just hoping that just that gut, that gut wrenching feeling that you get. And, you're throwing it all out. You're throwing it all out on the line today, Monday night, Mike, and hopefully this thing can turn out our way. Hopefully.
All right, and if you look at this, you got all the Bengal fans screaming for A.J. McCarron still, even though they don't realize that Andy Dalton now went, I think, 5 or 6 games without throwing an interception. His quarterback rating in that time is 108.8. He's played unreal compared when you consider the offensive line or lack, therefore, of offensive line play that he has. And another thing offensively that really has to give you hope is Joe Mixon had a career-high 165 yards from scrimmage. And the thing is this, Cleveland may be a bad team, but I think they were top 10 in stopping the run. So I think when you remove Jeremy Hill from the mix and you make Joe Mixon the guy, I think that makes everything a lot easier on Dalton.
Oh, definitely. I think when what they were trying to do in the beginning of the season, I think they were trying to appease Jeremy Hill by starting him. And I think as a veteran, he kind of seen the writing on the wall because this kid from Oklahoma, Mixon, has come in from day one from training mini camp. He showed everybody something, that he showed that these guys are going to be special. And last week he had his breakout game. And you can look at Cleveland, and they haven't won a game. The team is off, but like you said, they don't have a bad defense. They have some really good defensive players, a really solid defense. And he had a career high rushing. We ran the ball. We controlled the clock. And I think even with Mixon, I don't know if you noticed, Mike, they had this little Twitter war going back on, and he's saying that Mixon copied his touchdown celebration, or he's even copying his running style. So as a competitor, I think that Mixon, he has a little extra added incentive to go out there and outplay their guy. And you look at it when you play, and we go in and when I was playing and we're playing the Giants. Obviously, as a linebacker, you wanted to play well because you're looking at Lawrence Taylor, Harry Carson, Gary Reeves, Banks. You're looking at those guys. You play Cleveland, and you look at the linebackers they had back in the day, the Saints, the linebackers they had, and you wanted to play well. You wanted to play well because their backers And in that meeting, you would say, hey, well, hey, backers, they got to, these are supposedly Pro Bowl guys, and, they're better than us. And, there is an extra added incentive. And I think that Joe Mixon, he has that extra added incentive to go out and outplay Bell. And hopefully, at the end of the day, he's still going to need some decent offensive line play. And unfortunately, Mike, when we talk about it, we get on the show, and, I think we're pumped up when we're talking about Mixon and A.J. Green and, certain guys, defensive guys, but it all still goes right back to the offensive line, Mike. And, it bothers your stomach that these, with the Coach Alexander and forcing 70 in, I know he was the first-round pick, but he played a little better. But at the end of the day, Mike, I just don't know. I just don't know if our offensive line is capable, of putting back-to-back games like this.
Well, see, I think this. I don't think they played that good the last game. I think the fact that Cleveland's secondary is not that good made it so I would say probably 75% of the time Dalton had the ball gone within 2 or 3 seconds, and he was throwing to the first guy. I think the problem is that, and this is an advantage this week because Joe Hayden's gone from the Steelers lineup, it looks like, and their DBs aren't that good. So this may be something where having to throw to the first read quickly won't kill you so much, and then maybe having some success on the quick passing backs Shazier and those linebackers off to open up some holes for Mixon.
Yeah, definitely. You're going to have to. That's we got to look at last week. You're making quick throws because our offensive line they're not able to sustain blocks. He's not able to do a fully 5-step drop and be able to go through his progressions. We're seeing that. I'm at the game. I'm texting back and forth with you. And people like they want A.J. McCarron in, but you have to be able to try and even go through your progression, even in the 3-step drop, which he hasn't been able to do all season. But
because all these people are saying he obviously can't read a defense. He doesn't have time to read a defense.
You don't have time. You don't have time when there's a bullet coming. You better pull the trigger, man, and get out the way. With what, like you said, going against the Pittsburgh this week, you're going to have to back those linebackers up. You have to. That's the only way that we're going to have any kind of success running the ball. We're going to have to get some quick shots out to A.J. Green. With some draws. I still don't. I think we underutilized Giovanni. You have to try and put this guy in space. Get Shazier out of the box. You have to try and do something because we're not a smash mouth team. This team. This offensive team this year is not built to be a smash mouth. You look at. When Kirkpatrick had the 100-yard interception and didn't score a touchdown, that has to be a record in the NFL. And we get on the one. Mike, if we weren't going to run the ball in. That's how bad it was. I mean, if we would have kept running, by the time 4th down, we'd probably been on the 5 or 6 yard line. So you look at the offensive line play. There's things that as an offensive coordinator you have to do. You have to do some short passes, some quick passes, 3-step drop, and getting to that first open that first option. You have to go there in order to try and say, hey, make the defense adjust. If you come out and you're not successful in those quick passes, they're going to come in. They're going to crowd the box, and we're going to be looking at another way the Bengals have lost another game to Pittsburgh, and it's gonna be ugly.
Yeah, and I think people forget when they bring up the A.J. McCarron is A.J. McCarron had his chance. He had his chance in a playoff game, and people are like, we put him in position to win. They played 3 quarters with getting 4 first downs, and when Pittsburgh was doing what Pittsburgh does, was just changing up their coverages at the snap, doing stuff like that, McCarron was completely lost.
Yeah. We look at it. We see, football. And a lot of people, your heart wants, well, let's give A.J. McCarron a try and maybe Andy. And you're discrediting what Andy has done. You know, like you said, you talked about his QB rating and the lack of interceptions, and they don't understand. A.J. McCarron did have a chance. He had an opportunity. Like you said, there were when he was playing down in Denver last year and in the playoff game. You're looking at it. This guy was not hitting the open receivers. This guy was not going through his progressions and being able to find where the open guy was. I still think if Andy is given time, if Andy is able to do a five-step drop, 3-step drop. Now, give me a 3-step drop, Mike. And go through his progression. You'll be able to see how good Andy is.
Well, I think you saw that in 2013 when he was one of the leading candidates for MVP until he got hurt.
Yeah. And people overlook that, and it's obvious. When you're losing and things are not going well, you're going to point to the head coach. You're going to point to the quarterback. Quarterback play. That's the first and foremost. That's where when it goes bad, that's where the blame is going to go, and when it goes great, unfortunately, that's where the credit is going to go. So in either way, you look at it, they take too much of the flack, and then they do, in my opinion, they take too much credit when everything goes well. So there's so many integral parts, that go into every game, and I know, and as well, that the offensive line play, defensive line play, in those trenches, that's where the game is won. The game is still, even though it's the passing league, more, it's a little more finesse now, it's still run in the trenches. Because if you cannot pass block, if you cannot run block, you're not going to be successful. There is no team. Tom Brady would not be winning the Super Bowls if he didn't have solid offensive line play. You have to have solid offensive line play, defensive line play in order to be a championship caliber team.
Yeah, and the one good thing I do take away from this is Ben Roethlisberger will be going for his third game with 30 completions, 300 yards, third consecutive game. He's played a lot better lately. But when you look at Pittsburgh offensively, it seems like they've struggled on the road. I mean, you had to barely beat Indianapolis. You got beat by Chicago in Chicago. So I think this is set up that if the Bengals have any kind of heart, which I hate to say and call out people, but I've watched them all year, and that's the thing that I really kind of doubt here. If they do, this is a game they should win. They should beat Chicago, and they should have themselves back in this with a chance to make the playoffs with 3 weeks left to go.
I'm looking at it. I'm looking at the schedule. I'm looking at, like you said, Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has, they're on a win streak. But you look at the last Sunday night, the Green Bay game. That's a game they could have and probably should have lost. You look at
the Colts game.
Indianapolis. You look at that. That's a game that they could have lost. There's games. But that separates the good teams and the bad team. You find a way to.
They find a way to win the game no matter how they're playing.
Yeah. So they're 9-2, but Mike, they could easily have been 6-5. And it wouldn't have been, a miracle play here or there. There's one play here, one play there that's separating them from being 6-5 and 9-2. There's 1 or 2.
Yeah, but I think that's every team in the NFL outside of New England and Philadelphia now.
Yeah. So you look at this. I in my mind, I still think that this team thinks that they can compete and beat Pittsburgh. I just, in my heart, I feel that they think they can beat them. So this is the NFL. You, at least in your mind, you have to believe that you're able to compete and beat this guy in front of you.
Yeah, but I'll put it this way, Joe. When I'm coaching a football team, I don't ever tell my team I believe we can win. Because this is the thing. I think when you look at the Bengals and Steelers, and I think your point was great, I think the Bengals believe they can win. The problem is the Steelers know they're going to win. That's the difference between the Steelers and the Bengals.
Yeah.
And, when it gets down to it, knowing you're going to win in that last minute in that playoff game is why you won. The other team was hoping they would win. The Steelers expect to win. And I think that's been the Bengals' problem for the last, 30 years?
Well,
since 1991, the Bengals have hoped to win. Everybody that's played them is expected to win. Yeah. The ones that expect to win usually win.
Yeah, it's the culture. It's the culture. It's when you pull up to that building, when you pull up to that stadium, when you're at practice. I think the organization, when you go to Pittsburgh, it's expected to be a champion. And I think there's times that when I was here in the middle '80s or late '80s, we dominated Pittsburgh. But I still
the entire decade of the '80s through 1990, the Bengals dominated the Steelers.
Yeah. So you look at, like you said, there's an expectation because you look, the guys are getting replaced, but they're still the Steelers. Palomalo, he's gone. Bring somebody in. You get James Harrison, he's not starting. Bring somebody in. The linebackers gone. They bring somebody in. When we played them the first game, they're offensive tackle. I just thought Dunlap was going to destroy him. Just bring in a guy because this is a guy. But the guy winds up playing a solid game against our best pass rusher. They're expecting when they come in, it's the next guy up. Here, like I said, we don't have that type of depth where we can lose one of our star guys. They lose a Le'Veon Bell, and the guy comes in. They don't miss a beat. You look at and they have wide receivers. They're just finding wide receivers all over the place. They're coming in and and speaking of wide receivers, I'm still disappointed that Marvin cannot get John Ross. Well,
the thing I'm told is Marvin doesn't like John Ross because he didn't want to pick John Ross.
Mike, you're a head coach. You're a coach, Mike. And here's this guy. And there's some problems picking up the offense. I'm talking, this is a rookie. And I understand he's not the first guy that probably had some issues picking up the offensive scheme. But there's this guy that can run for nothing. Mike, as a coach, tell me, are you going to say, okay, this guy's having, but we can make him a threat. We can even make him a decoy. There has to be 2, 3, 4 plays that you can make this for this guy and just say, hey, you're going to just run a 9 route. And there's times that we're just going to throw it up and let you run under it, go get it, or we're just going to make you run a 9 route and clear it out for number 18. It baffles me.
Well, I can equate it to this. I mean, if you remember Vince Young when he went with Jeff Fisher at Tennessee, Fisher didn't want to pick him, and Fisher basically destroyed his career. Exactly. I mean, Young went from being the rookie of the year to being the backup the next year to being out of the league a couple of years later.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate because I've seen that. I've actually seen that for myself. Coaches who come in and have actually destroyed guys' career. I specifically when I remember getting traded to the Jets, and Bruce Cosby was the head coach, and nobody knew who Pete Carroll was, Monty Kiffin. They were unknown guys. These guys were assistants. Pete Carroll was an assistant defensive back coach. Monty Kiffin was an assistant linebacker coach with the Vikings. So they bring in Fritz Shermer's defense. So they're still learning the defense, but they're trying to teach the defense to us. They're trying to teach the defense to us that they don't like. And I'm getting with the Jets, and you have Eric McMillan, who was all rookie, Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
They totally destroyed Eric Emac's career. Totally destroyed it. A guy who can that guy could play some football. But it was the scheme and personality clash with Pete Carroll. And you seen a guy who was a Pro Bowl guy wind up some games not even playing. And it's unfortunate when you get coaches that are able to destroy guys, and because they can go on and the thing about coaches, you can be a horrible coach, like you can suck, but then you're still in those guys are still in the league 30 years later.
Yeah,
and they had some awful years, awful coaching, and unfortunately, players don't have the lifespan. Your career, you don't have the lifespan in your career to be able to rebound.
Yeah, if a coach don't like you, you might be gone and never get another job.
Yes, yeah. So it's unfortunate. I just hope the kid keeps his head up because it doesn't matter. I know this kid can run routes. I know this kid has great hands. His speed is phenomenal. There's no way. You try and you get this guy. This guy is not. You don't hear about this guy coming late to practice, not working hard, hanging out all night. You don't hear none of that.
But he is the only player I've really ever heard Marvin call out in a press conference.
And that is. Like this guy. We
can't call out Cedric Ogbuehi or Russell Bodine or Coach Alexander.
Yeah.
And Coach Alexander's one of those terrible coaches, been around for 30 years too. I just figured I'd throw that out there.
Yeah, I remember Paul. I remember Paul Alexander when I was playing. This guy, terrible coach. You're keeping guys in. Your center. We don't have anybody on that offensive line that would probably leave here and start anywhere else.
No, I don't think there's anybody in that offensive line you could turn into an offensive lineman.
Yeah. Well,
if you look at them, their feet are bad, and I've never seen so many supposed NFL linemen that give up leverage by leaning in the guys.
Oh man, I've just seen some play. You look at because offensive line, that your feet. You got to have good feet. You got to you have to have a good base. You have to have a great base. You got to have real good. IV coordination, hand and eye coordination. You're working. Your jab shake. All these things. You're balanced. These guys, I've seen every single lineman off balance, feet too close together. No base. I've seen these guys getting thrown around like rag dolls. I've seen these guys totally whiffing. There's a guy in front of you. Calais from Jacksonville, 6'8", 320. I've seen Cedric Ogbuehi whiff on a run play. This guy is this is a big monster in front of you. How can you not?
Hey, in Cedric's defense, I've seen almost everybody whiff on a run play.
Yeah, that's and it's disappointing because at this level there are so many guys who are capable. I'm telling you, there are guys sitting on the bench on some teams that will come here and would be a remarkable upgrade from what we have. And it's about going out there and it goes back to no lack of scouting department, lack of Bengals investing in a department that can go out and look at and evaluate a good free agent pickup that where you don't have to go out and go pay for the most expensive offensive guard or offensive tackle on the market. You can go out and find some.
Yeah, New England doesn't. New England has a really good coach, offensive line coach, who makes offensive linemen. Yeah, so it's been done. You take a guy like Joe Walters, and Joe was a 6th round pick, 8th round pick. Yeah.
And that year, those 88, 89, Joe Walters played as good as Anthony Munoz every single game. Every game he was in there, Joe Walters was just as good as Anthony Munoz. So you can find those guys. But it's about the
but remember this: the big key there is he was coached by Jim McNally.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's
he wasn't coached by Paul Alexander. He was coached by Jim McNally.
Yeah. So it's unfortunate because we do have the team. If you think if we would have kept if we'd have kept Whitworth,
they should have kept them both. But if you just keep one of them, if you just keep one, you still got 4 that suck next to him, Joe.
Yeah, but I think even with Whitworth been a tackle, I think that would have been a difference of at least 2 games. No doubt in my mind, it would have been a difference at least 2 games. You look at the Rams. The Rams, their personnel, is not dramatically different than what it was.
It is, Joe. 3/5 of that offensive line was brought in.
Well, yeah,
because they did the opposite of what the Bengals and Giants did. They went out and got Whitworth. They got the center. They got a right guard. And the center is going to be a Pro Bowler. I can't remember his name right now, but my memory sucks. So really, they did. And if you look at a team like Philadelphia, every hole they needed to fill, they filled. The Cincinnati Bengals and the New York Giants have terrible offensive lines, maybe the 2 worst in the NFL. Yeah. And one of them in the Bengals actually got rid of the only 2 guys that were worth a crap. Yeah. And got nothing in return, not in the draft, not in anything. And the Giants basically stayed pat with a terrible offensive line. So those two teams kind of get what they deserve, I think.
Yeah. And when I'm saying it, you look at it, you're still their core of their team, their defense, pretty much the same with player here or there. Their offense, their quarterback, the running back, they got Sammy Watkins. He's a difference, and then
but see that's the difference again. They went out and actually filled the holes they needed to fill. The Bengals didn't.
Exactly. Yeah. So
And I mean, it gets old. I mean, I don't see why this happens all the time.
Yeah, and it's. Unfortunately, it's something that the Browns have done over and over for whatever reason.
But see, I've also been told that Whitworth was offered dang near pretty much the same money to stay here, and he wanted to go to L.A. instead. And I was told the same thing about Zeitler, that the offers weren't that far off, but they just would rather gone somewhere else, which may say more about the Bengals than anything.
Yeah, that could if those two that's actual fact. Then that
I know the Zeitler thing is an actual fact from the person I heard it from, that the money was almost identical. And when you have somebody choosing to go to Cleveland over Cincinnati, there's a problem there.
Yeah, that shows you internally where the issue is. If those guys, I know I said some things with Marvin Jones, and because Marvin Jones, I knew for a fact had a similar contract offer from the Bengals.
Yeah.
But I understood Marvin Jones. I've understood Marvin Jones.
Yeah, he wanted to go somewhere and be the man.
Yeah, he wanted to be there. So I understood that. You allow Sanu to go to Atlanta and look at him. He's flourishing. It's just been bad move. Even though it's maybe only 1, 2, or 3 moves. Reggie Nelson, horrible move. Whitworth, horrible move. Zeitler, horrible move. Sanu, horrible move. You're looking at these guys that if they were still part of our team, what? And we just say sell the farm. I'm saying just imagine if we had Sanu still here, we had Zeitler, we had Whitworth, we had Reggie Nelson. That's it. Mike, don't change anything. Just give me those guys back, and we would be a different team. Our mindset would be different.
Really, if you just had Whitworth and Zeitler, you're a different team.
Yeah.
Because right now, I mean, I don't think the problem. I mean, I don't think Sanu and them were huge losses because I think that they really. I mean, they replaced them with guys close enough to being good enough.
Close, I agree.
So I can see saving the money there, but if you're saving the money there, why the hell can't you spend it on Whitworth and Zeitler?
Exactly. Yeah. It's unfortunate, man, and that leads us to where we are and where we've been as an organization. Because when you look at some of our guys, we have some guys that that right now they're at the the crest of their careers, and because of 1 or 2 moves, you're talking about careers that can be totally different. We look at it. It's just it's unfortunate that the team is going in the direction that it has gone this year and struggling. Now we're fighting for our lives to even make that last wild card spot. And you're talking literally maybe having to win out.
And literally the problem is this: we talk about winning that, but if they were to win that wild card spot, does anybody here believe they have a shot to go to the Super Bowl? I mean, do we see them going to New England and winning? I mean, come on. I mean, this is why this is stupid.
Well, my thing is like this, man. You can't dance, man, if you don't buy a ticket. So, when you get to the dance, like, hey, man, who knows if the pretty girl's going to dance?
Yeah, but the thing is this, though. The Bengals are already going in with the fat, dumpy girl.
Yeah.
So.
So, Mike, it's, I don't know, man. We can do some wishful hoping that we get there. But my thing is this: you got to be able to buy a ticket, and the only way you're going to buy a ticket is pretty much practically winning out. You definitely can't afford to lose more than 1 game.
I mean this. It all comes down to this: if they can beat Pittsburgh, they've got a shot. If they don't, they're done.
Because the Pittsburgh loss would be demoralizing. it'll be, because right then, I know there's going to be some guys who tank, and they're going to throw it in.
Yeah, because you know this Pittsburgh game going one way or the other. If they lose it, it's either going to be on a last-second mistake that kills them, or they're just going to go out and, like the first Pittsburgh game, play for a half and then shut it down and say to hell with it.
Yeah. So I don't know, Mike. Maybe these guys, that's my wishful thinking again. Maybe they're going to put two halves together and compete. I think it's just compete. If you compete, damn it, compete. Compete against these guys, man, and give yourself a chance. Give yourself a chance. The last 4 or 5 minutes in the fourth quarter, give your team an opportunity. Man up, man. Look at each other in the eyes and give yourselves an opportunity to win this thing. You have to be able to believe, that, and I don't, that's wishful thinking on my behalf, but I think there's times as an athlete, as a competitor, that you have to dig down deep and say, hey, you know what? I'm tired of this BS. I'm going to go out. I can't control. I'm not talking about. I can't look at what Andy's doing. I can't look at what Ablay's doing. I'm a linebacker, so I'm going to do everything in my might to beat this guy that's over me. Every play I have to defeat him. And if you get that and let that spread, man to man, mano y mano, man up and get it done. Man, scream at you get the beat. Ablay, somebody get in his ass. Get out there and compete, man. And somebody get mad. Get mad, get upset, light a fire under somebody, and go out there and give the fans something to root about. Give the fans, let me go down. I can go down and say we got beat by the Steelers, but man, we were kicking their ass. We competed. It was that last second, whatever it was. But we can come out of this game with our heads held high.
All right, Joe, let's do it this way. Who are you picking?
I'm going with the boys, man. I'm going with the Bengals, Mike. I'm going Monday night. I'm not thinking about prime time. I'm not thinking about, Monday night. I'm not thinking about what's supposed to go wrong. I'm going to say that these guys, they're going to put it out on the guillotine, man. And they're going to put it out there, man, and they're going to compete. They're going to compete, and they're going to find a way to win this Monday night game. Against my
better judgment, I'm going to pick the Bengals to win the game 20-17. I know that probably won't happen. I'm a Bengals fan. Yeah. Let's be realistic, but
yeah.
My thing is this: the Steelers haven't played as well on the road. The Bengals are in a must-win situation where the Steelers pretty much have this division wrapped up. I mean, they've got a 3-game lead over Baltimore, a 4-game lead over Cincinnati. So I think the Bengals have a lot more to play for. They're at home, which means, only half the stadium will be for Pittsburgh. It's better than playing in Pittsburgh where it's 90%. So I think the Bengals win the game 20-17. I think the over-under on fights to keep people kicked out of the stadium would be at 9.
Okay. Yeah,
because everybody's going to show up drunk to that game. It's Bengals-Steelers.
Yeah. So we'll see, man. I'm thinking it's going to be another good weekend with some more Bengal legends coming in town and being honored at halftime. So that's a good time, good week, and hopefully it can culminate in a Bengal victory Monday night.
All right, Joe, we will be back next week to hopefully talk about a Bengal victory and talk about a game against the Bears that could actually put the Bengals over 500 with 3 weeks to go. So we're going to wrap it up. I want to remind everybody you can go to thegruelingtruth.net to get all of our shows, all of our articles, baseball, football, basketball, boxing. We got a little bit of everything except for soccer because I don't believe in soccer. And, I don't care if FC Cincinnati comes to Cincinnati or not, Joe. But if they do, we'll probably do a show about it. It just won't be me because I don't like soccer. Make sure you check out all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher. Anywhere you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Joe Kelly, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.